الله أكبر الله أكبر.
حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
So, I think I want to clear something up first. I think the good sister has jumped the gun. I'm a candidate standing as an independent in the upcoming elections, which haven't been declared yet. So, so I'll be your MP for the moment, but
you are our MP.
I'll try
the
that for everyone later on.
Yes.
Inshallah. But to start with the hadith, a saying of the Prophet of Islam, who said that a Muslim is somebody who, when he sees a wrong, stops it with his hand. And if he cannot, then he stops it with his tongue. And if he cannot, he hates it in his heart, and that is the least of iman. Now that saying was reminded to me by a client of mine who was arrested for murder a few years ago. And he was actually a guy who was driving down the street, and he witnessed a horrible event. A man stabbing a woman in the middle of the street at 9 o'clock in the morning. So what did he do? He remembered that saying, and he drove his car into the man to try and stop that person committing that heinous act. And for his efforts, I think this is an English saying, no good turn goes unpunished. So he was arrested and accused of murder. But he held by that phrase, and because he stuck with it and people heard about his plight, he was eventually released, alhamdulillah, without charge, and he went on with his life. But he reminded me of that. And the reason I say that is because that is on an individual scale. A man who saw wrong and stopped it with his hand. But on a global scale, we see what we now know to be a genocide. We see that unfolding in front of us. And we are all people who have had this lesson drummed into our hearts as we grew up. If you see a wrong, stop it with your hand. If you cannot, as you cannot, you are thousands of miles away, you at least speak out against it. And that is what we do here today. At least we don't have the least of iman. At least we have more than those people who are closer to those events, closer to the arena, closer with their resources and their power to do something, and yet they do nothing.
يا رب العالمين. اللهم انقذ المسلمين في غزة يا ذا الجلال والعزة.
ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله
today.
Thanks, Tabby. So yeah, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about why I'm here tonight. I'm here tonight because I can't sit idly by while the Palestinians are subject to a live-streamed Holocaust, broadcast live to our phones, day after day after day after day. I stand with the Palestinians because, ashamedly, my government won't, as they prefer to engage in tactics of what I like to call DAVO. Distract, attack, reverse victim and offender. I stand with the Palestinians because I don't agree with my government's stance, which is a stance of white supremacy, colonialism, imperialism, greed and resource grabbing to its shame. I stand with the Palestinians because I recognise that the Palestinians as a besieged, trapped, defenceless population comprised largely of refugees against one of the most advanced, barbaric, immoral military forces on the planet. I stand with the Palestinians because, like all of us here, I see through the Israeli propaganda machine in its ridiculous attempts to convince the world that they are just defending themselves against Hamas. The UK defines Hamas as a terrorist organisation, and I cannot help but be astounded at the complicity of my government that is currently directly complicit in the mass murder and ethnic cleansing of 2.3 million people. Is that not terrorism? Yes. I stand with the Palestinians because I stand with the oppressed, never the oppressor. I stand with the Palestinians because I recognise the Palestinian resistance as an ideology which represents Palestinian self-determination, statehood and justice for the Palestinians. Ideologies cannot be destroyed, especially as this particular group advocates against stolen land and the brutal, decades-long oppression and apartheid of the Palestinians. I stand with the Palestinians because the ugly face of Zionism has revealed itself for all of us to see, and because I refuse to be bullied and labelled an anti-Semite as a means to attempt to shut down criticism of the racist, ethno-supremacist political movement of Zionism. Keeping Jewish people safe is categorically and unequivocally not more important than not unaliving Palestinians. Yet this is the very ideology upon which Zionism is based. I stand with the Palestinians because the destructive force of Zionism must be dismantled, and it must be dismantled now. I stand with the Palestinians because it could have been me.
For staying up this long, God bless you. Good evening. I was very reluctant to speak tonight because I feel that I'm a nobody. I don't have an important place in society. However, two things came to mind, and that's why I turned up today. Firstly, I remember the chants that we say at every protest, at every marches. In our thousands, in our millions! We are all Palestinians! In our millions, in our billions! We are all Palestinians! So here I am today, speaking as a Palestinian, not necessarily from a Palestinian origin, but I am their voice. And so are all of you here today. First reasons for coming up tonight. Secondly, over 5.5 months into Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza, with more than 32,000 Palestinians already unalive, 6 weeks after the ICJ found Israel plausibly guilty of committing genocide and ordered it to stop, and after 4 attempts, the UN Security Council passed a resolution demanding for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza yesterday. Akunji, you covered this earlier. Thank you. However, the resolution failed to mention the immediate release of all illegally detained Palestinians in Israeli prisons, which also includes many children. Let's not forget that children. We're talking about children as young as 5 years old. Some detainees are in captivity at unknown locations and have not been in contact with their loved ones for a very long time. And this is one of the reasons why I came out tonight. One of them is a Palestinian doctor. It's Dr. Saleh who was abducted on November 18th, and his place of captivity is still unknown. He was a doctor in the emergency department at Al-Shifa Hospital. However, I have been in contact with his family in Canada. They have been struggling to get support for Dr. Saleh because Dr. Saleh is not a Canadian. He's a Palestinian. So unfortunately for him, nobody outside of Palestine, outside of Gaza, is able to help him. But we can. I have a message from one of his family members, and if we can play that tonight, that'll be amazing.
We recently got news about Dr. Saleh, my cousin. For the first 90 days, he was struggling mentally. He was crying. He was not adapting to his abduction. He was being tortured, questioned a lot. For the first 90 days, he lost the most amount of weight. They barely fed him. They only gave them 2 meals a day, and one of the meals was rotten, and the other meal was small. They won't allow them to shower except every 2 weeks, once, with dirty water. And the water they give them for drinking is contaminated as well. My cousin is one of the doctors that's questioned 20 times a day, where other doctors are only questioned 4 or 5 times a day. For the first 90 days, he struggled the most. He did not think he would be able to get out. One of the things that he kept on asking is telling people that when they get out, to let his family know that he's okay and that he's still alive. And vice versa, the other doctors said the same thing. When they get out, just let their families know. That's all they wanted to know. There was no concept of time inside because they took away everything. They don't let them know what time it is. They don't let them know what day it is. They don't even know if the war is over. After the first 90 days, Saleh began to adapt a little bit, and he began to help everybody that's with him. Began to help them by reading Quran, by trying to make sure that they're okay, healing some people, trying to help them out if they have some injuries from the torture or anything like that. His message to his family was that he's okay, and by God's will, he will be out soon. The person who relayed the message to us was one of his friends that got out. He's a released healthcare worker. He told us that Saleh is holding in strong. If it wasn't for Saleh, a lot of people wouldn't have the faith that they're going to get out. A lot of people that are inside are thinking the genocide, the war is over, when it's not. They're starting to think that their families are not caring about them, because that's what the IOF is doing. They're telling them that it's all done, and they're mentally torturing them, telling them that no one's going to come for them, telling them that once they release them as well, they're going to kill them, they're going to find their family, and put them back all in concentration camps. Saleh, the last time we've heard about him, was at 100 days. We're now looking at 129 days. 29 days of not knowing if he's still alive, if he made it. We know that he's starving. We know that he's been tortured. We know that he gets questioned 20 times a day. We need to get him out as soon as possible, because this is inhumane. We need to help all these healthcare workers that are being tortured around the clock.
Thank you. That was Saleh's cousin who's based in Canada. Before I finish off, I just want to say that yes, we are all praying for the end of the genocide in Gaza. We're all doing this to free Palestine. It is our responsibility to make sure that people of Palestine are liberated. But at the same time, I beg you, and I request everybody to include all of Palestinian detainees who are currently in captivity, especially children, because they are also being tortured every day. And we forget them because there's so many distractions in our lives. So please include them in your prayers. Take action. You can follow Dr. Saleh's cousin's Instagram account. I'll share it with tabs. And please, if you can come up with any ideas on how we can put together a petition asking for his release, that will be amazing. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Palestinian Muhammad wanted to pass this message on as a Palestinian from the Palestinian diaspora himself, a grandson of the Nakba. The truth is, I was really upset with our community yesterday. I saw post after post celebrating the UN's vote for a ceasefire. And let us be clear, it is nothing but a 2-week pause, which is a contingent on only one side releasing hostages and no acknowledgement or even care towards the 7,000 Palestinian hostages held in Israel. So as a Palestinian, he was hurt, and understandably so. He felt that the community was accepting a watered down demand. But from a political landscape, yesterday was huge. Yesterday was the first instance in history which so openly portrayed the wedge that is growing between the West and Israel. While the US still shamefully abstained, we know that day by day, minute by minute, the pressure is being applied, and it's having an impact in the political landscape. You are that pressure. You are all the reason why the wedge is being forced. Your efforts day in, day out, month after month, is the reason why politicians are backtracking. But let us not forget how we got here in the first place. Let us not forget how many times we warned them that Israel had been given an unrestricted license to commit genocide. Free the people, free the land! Free the people, free the land!
But is the suffering the Palestinians are going through a million times greater than anything we could go through?
Yes!
Is it greater?
Yes!
And are we going to stop?
No!
Are we going to stop doing what we're doing?
No!
Are we going to stop?
No!